Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wal-mursaleen. Astaghfirullah. Nabiyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, amma ba'd. Today, inshallah, we're going to cover the most important things connected to the Wakil and the Wali, the male guardian. And number one, we need to understand that specifically for the brothers and for the sisters, the more you understand about this chapter in the Wali, the less headache and problem you're going to have. And the less you understand, the more problems you make for yourself. And that's just how it generally goes. Many problems come because sisters don't understand. Many of our sisters don't understand what their Wali is for. What is he supposed to be doing? What is he not supposed to be doing? So many sisters don't understand what's supposed to be happening with the Wali or the Wakil. The brothers also, they don't understand. Many brothers don't understand that the Wilaya, the fact that a brother takes and accepts the position to be a Wali of a sister or a Wakil, and we're going to get to the difference between the two, that he's taking on another responsibility that he's responsible for in front of Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah. It's not like an optional thing. You do it when you get to it. It's a responsibility that the Prophet ﷺ told us that everybody will be held responsible for whatever they're responsible for. It's mas'uliyah. It's a mas'uliyah that the man will be held responsible for in front of Allah if he doesn't do what he's supposed to be doing. It's a job. And it's something that the men will be held responsible for in front of Allah. So part of the problem, and inshallah we're going to get to, it's a lot of questions. Part of the problem is we have to understand that number one, it's not a game. This is not a game. Wilaya and being a Wali or Wakil is not a game. It's not something you have fun with and that you pick and choose, and then when you get in the jam, you run to the masjid or wherever you go and they want everybody to fix the problem that you made. It's not a joke. This is our deen and it's not a game. So sisters need to understand real good, inshallah, the difference, what your Wali is supposed to be doing, and everything that was mentioned, inshallah, on the flyer, so that you save yourself some headache. And it'll be a lot easier to pick out the people who playing games. Brothers is playing games, it'll be easy to pick them out. It'll be easy. And you save yourself a lot of hard time, headache, heartache, and everything like that. Inshallah ta'ala. You want to do the definition? The difference?
No. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wa mursaleen. Nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. To get started, right? The way we're going to address this is that we received a lot of emails with questions about the Wali and the Wakil and the difference between the two, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to explain firstly the difference between a Wali and a Wakil. This is something that we did before, and then once we explain the difference between the two, then we are going to read through the list or series of questions that we received online. Right? I'm sorry. Plus, you can send them in. Plus, you can send them even online. Even if you want to send questions in online, etc., you can do that as well. The first thing is, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said in authentic hadith, he said, La nikah illa biwali. La nikah illa biwali. And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said that there is no marriage unless there is a wali. Unless there is a wali. A wali is a guardian of sorts of a woman. A guardian of sorts of a woman. Who can be the wali? Who can be the wali? We're going to mention, first of all, if the Prophet ﷺ said that a woman cannot get married unless she has a wali, so the next question is, who is a wali? Who can be a wali? First, we're going to go into who can be a wali Islamically, meaning in terms of how the scholars of the past has explained what a wali is. So the first one, what you want to start with this? Go ahead, you got it. Go through this and then we'll go through the conditions.
طيب. For the conditions first. Conditions first. Go, come on. All right, sisters. Number one, brothers and sisters. Number one, every brother, every Muslim man is not. Every Muslim man is not. Doesn't meet the requirements. We'll say. Every Muslim man does not. Just because he's a Muslim and he's a man does not necessarily means he meets the requirements to be a wali. That's number one. So a lot of times problems come in because sisters say, I need a wali. I'm trying to get married, I need a wali. So what do? They grab a brother that's Muslim, somebody that's Muslim. The problem is you don't even know if he's eligible to be a wali or not. Does he even meet the standards and the requirements to be a wali Islamically? That's the problem. And many times, a lot of the brothers don't. A lot of times they don't meet the requirements. So what we're going to read off now is our 7 conditions for a wali. Okay, 7 things that need to be present in a man in order for them to be considered a wali.
And sisters, pay attention to this, and brothers as well, pay attention to this. Is very important.
You can't hear? Yeah. Maybe, yeah. They might want to turn that speaker up a little bit. The first condition is a taklif. A taklif. And a taklif has 2 descriptions, 2 qualities go with it. Okay. Number 1, if a person is mukallaf, that means that number 1, they have their sanity, and number 2, they have reached the age of puberty. So, sister, just because your son is a male and he's a Muslim, don't mean you can use him to get married all of the time. He has to meet certain conditions, and one of those conditions is he has to be valid. He has to have at least reached the age of puberty, along with the other conditions that are going to come after that. Clear? I hope that's clear. That's the person that's the wali has to be what? They have to have their sanity, and number 2, that they have to be of age meaning at least reach the age of puberty.
So before we move on to the next point, we just want to make sure that's clear. Any questions on that right there? Any questions? This means that when he says taklif, this means that they are accountable in front of Allah. And this is important to understand. So if a sister has a 7-year-old son, and she says, he's my wali, and it's not even obligatory for him to pray yet, this is problematic, right? This is problematic. So the first part is that he must be of the age of taklif. Taklif means that he is now accountable in front of Allah for his actions. Meaning, if he does something incorrectly, he is deserving to be punished. If he leaves off the salah, he is deserving to be punished. Right? The next one.
If we don't know, sisters, that means your 10-year-old in most cases cannot be a wali. If he did not reach the age of puberty, he cannot be your wali. A wali, sisters, is not just a brother that stands there while you get married to represent you, as people think. He's not just a body to represent you, like a third party. That's not the job of a wali. So if your son has not reached the age of puberty, then in that case, he's not eligible to be a wali. The next condition of dhukuriyya, that of course, the wali and the wakil for the marriage, in this case, we'll talk about wakil later. Leave that wali. The wali has to be a male. You can't just pull a sister again and say this. I need you to be a third party for this marriage. So who's your wali? Well, my sister here, she's been Muslim a long time. She's a good sister. Everybody in the community knows her, so she's going to be my wali. Like, she's not eligible. Women are not eligible to be the wali. Clear? Inshallah, that's clear. Do we need that? Tayyib. Next, say for example, somebody, your son is he's reached the age of puberty, he's a Muslim, he has his sanity. The next condition that he has to understand is he has to have what they say a rushd fil aqd. A rushd fil aqd. And in this case, they say that in this situation, he understands the benefits and the harms with this side of the marriage contract. He understands what's going on in the marriage contract. Not that he has to understand how to deal with money specifically. The understanding that he needs in this case is what needs to be done for a marriage contract to be valid for the man. Is the man a good man for his mother or for his sister or whatever the case may be? These things are specific to the marriage contract that the wali needs to understand that. If you put it in plain text and reality, in real life, does your 15-year-old son, yes, or 16, or possibly 17, do they understand the benefits of the marriage contract and everything that goes along with it? In most cases, based on the situations we deal with, majority of cases they don't know. And a lot of times the sisters, they know that they don't know, but they really want to marry the brother. And the brother, believe me, sisters, the brother knows that 17-year-old don't really know what he's doing.
And honestly, just to touch on that, a 17-year-old or 16-year-old, if they see that their mother wants to marry somebody, chances are they're going to agree with their mother. He's not going to say, "Oh, mom, go back. Let me do some more thorough investigation." For the most part, a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, they're not going to go through all that. We've seen situations where sisters got married and their wali was a 16-year-old or 17-year-old. And in reality, it's not a good look because a 16 or 17-year-old, how can a 16 or 17-year-old question a grown man? Question a grown man about his intentions and how he's going to move and do some type of thorough investigation. A 16-year-old can't figure that out. And we all know that. We all know that. We're not talking about the exception, we're talking about the rule. The rule of thumb is a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, they may not be equipped to do a thorough investigation. Some grown men can't do thorough investigations. So what about a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old?
Like, so a rush, having knowledge of the benefits of the marriage contract, making sure that that man is good enough for that woman, that they're on an equal playing field, and that it will be a good match, things like that. Which in most cases, if you're using your 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid, your son, it doesn't happen like that. And many times, the sister knows that, and believe me, sisters, the brother knows that. Even if you don't know, he knows. So we got to be honest and be realistic, and like we say, stop taking the back door route and be straight up. You know he's not going to be able to handle the responsibility. Al-Wilaya, being a wali, is a responsibility. Why are you going to put your son in a position he's going to be accountable before Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah? And he doesn't know what he's doing. طيب. The next one, ittifaq ad-din, that the wali has to be a Muslim. The wali has to be a Muslim. And there are a lot of issues connected to that. But we'll say this as even if a family member is not a Muslim, it doesn't mean that they can't know that you're getting married. It doesn't mean that the men in your family can't know what's going on in the marriage process because you're Muslim. Then you say, well, they ain't Muslim, so I ain't telling them until I get married. But one sister thought, she didn't know. She thought that her mother was not allowed to meet the brother she was going to marry until after they got married. Because, what was her reason? She said, because, she said this to her mother, because you're not Muslim. So you can't meet her. And there's nothing that prevents that. So,
I think a question that came up a couple of days ago, marriage proposal.
You got to be louder. Either that or you.
This came up in the marriage proposal.
Okay.
Days ago about that particular question. What's the exact ayah or hadith that says that a non-Muslim can't be a wali of a sister?
That we like to capture Muslim hadith. There's no, it's a hadith actually. The Prophet said there's no wilayah or or guardianship, wilaya is guardianship, for a non-Muslim over a Muslim. Okay, it's how deep of the Prophet.
But in addition to that, let's talk about that. Let's say, for example, a sister wants to get married, right? Her father is not Muslim, her mother is not Muslim, right? But they're involved in her life, like really involved in her life, right? So the brother said, well, your parents are not Muslim, we're gonna go over here, find a different Wali, etc. Cool. If that is the case, it does not prevent that sister's father from doing his homework on that man. Let's make no mistake about that. That sister's father should meet that man and do his homework. And then the Wali should also talk to the father. There should be some communication going on there, right? Because you don't want to, if you have an involved father, he's not going to sit, that's not going to sit, even as a non-Muslim, it's not going to sit right with him. And that's going to cause problems between her and her family. So just part of being thorough as a man, just being decent. If her father and her mother's involved, you want to have them involved in the process, explain to her, all right, obviously he can't be the Wali, but he can obviously be a father. And that's what he's going to do, right? In addition to that, the Wali, his job is to kind of circumvent that situation, be the middleman, obviously when they get married, he's going to be the one to conduct that process. But if the father's involved, make sure he's involved with it as well. And this is what we encourage people to do when they come here. This is our encouragement when people come here.
So after the fact that the Wali has to be a Muslim, the next one is what they say, Al-Adala, which some scholars have said is not a condition, and some consider it a condition. And they say even if it's just what's apparent from what we see, meaning the person that you choose to be a Wali sister, if you have the option of choosing, because all sisters, we get to that, everybody don't have the option. You don't just have an option, just choose. It's not for everybody to just choose. Some sisters, some women don't have an option. Okay, and some do, depending on the situation. Like if you did have the option. So I know that, but what do you mean I don't have an option? All right, we're gonna get to that, inshallah. If that's the case, they say al-adala, even if it's just what's apparent, meaning, is this person somebody who carries a respectable, honorable name in the community? Even if it's just apparent, because nobody's perfect. So it could be that a brother, everybody knows him for good, but in reality he has sins, but they're not exposed. And we're not obligated to dig and find out the person's sins. We don't have to do that. So even if it was apparent, what's apparent is that, mashallah, the brother's upright, righteous brother, everybody knows to be a good brother, the masjid, the man upright. If that's the case, then in that case, then this person would be eligible. But what if it's the opposite? The brother got a bad rep. He's known to openly sin. Open. No shyness and none of that. Because we got a lot of people now, there's no shyness. They hit the Instagram and just go for it. No shyness. Right? They don't mind showing people their sins. This goes against the condition of adala. This would be an example. So you don't go choose a brother who's unknown, whatever he does. Whatever he does that he's not supposed to be doing as a Muslim. In this case, this would be a breach in that condition. He would not be eligible to be a wali for you, and that is al-adala. So those are the conditions that are mentioned for a man to be eligible. Now, we're going to move on to the next situation wherein the woman, who has the most right to be the wali over a woman? Who has the most right to be a wali over a woman? Okay? Oh, you said.
Right. So as when a woman gets married, so prior to that, he said the women that can't choose, some women cannot choose who they want their wali to be, right? For the women that can't choose, who are those women? The women that can't choose who their wali is are women who have Muslim men in their family. And we're going to qualify that right now. Which Muslim men? What does it look like? So we're going to mention a detailed explanation or example, if you will, of the men that are eligible to be the wali of a woman who does not have a choice. So the first one, a Muslim woman whose father is Muslim, he takes precedence over anyone else to be her wali, whether that is his right from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, someone may say, well, wait a minute, my father doesn't come to the masjid. My father, he's not on his knee the way that he should be. Or my father may even be an innovator, right? Is his wilayah taken from him? La, la. And anybody who got married because their father don't pray to certain masjid, that's a problem. It's a problem. His rights were taken away from him. When you look through the books of fiqh, specifically the books of the Salaf, it talks about this specific situation. Fathers not being like this, or fathers, etc. The only time the wilayah or guardianship is removed from the father is if he doesn't want to marry his daughter off and he doesn't have a legislative reason. What is a legislative reason? Perhaps, let's say it's a good brother. Maybe the brother doesn't pray, and the father knows, no, I'm not marrying my daughter to this man because he doesn't pray 5 times a day. I'm not marrying my daughter to this man because he's a drug dealer. I'm not marrying my daughter to this man because he beats women. I'm not marrying my daughter to this man because he doesn't have a job and he's not looking for one. I'm not marrying my daughter to this man because, he doesn't move right. I know people in the street that knows him, right? In this case, the father has a right. That's his haq, to not marry his daughter to someone like that. However, if this brother, he checks all the boxes, as they said, he just, I don't want my daughter to get married because I want her for myself, with me and my family. In this case, this is problematic. In this regard, the wilayah can be taken from him if he is not, or if he is refusing to marry his daughter off.
Before you move on, make sure sisters understand when the wilayah, when the guardianship is taken from a man, when the guardianship is taken, it's not something you jump up, you wake up and do tomorrow. It's a process, procedure. You have to make sure that you have a valid reason to skip over your Muslim father and go get somebody else to marry you off. That's be safe.
So if your father is Muslim and he doesn't go to a Salafi masjid, for example, maybe he has some other aqidah or belief system, but he prays 5 times a day, he's a Muslim, you cannot take his right away from him. Just so that we're clear on that. And if anybody listening to this says this is incorrect, hey, bring your evidence to support what you said. The next one. After the father, thumma wasiyuhu. Wasiyuhu is whoever, if the father passes away, whoever he leaves in his will to be the wali of his daughter, then that person takes precedence over anyone else. Again, if the father passes away and he says, I want Fulan ibn Fulan, such and such, to be the wali over his daughter, then he becomes the wali. That supersedes anyone else. So then we have the father, summa wasiyuhu, yani the one who he leaves in his will to be responsible for his daughter and marrying her off. So let's assume that the father didn't have a will, and the father is no longer here, or the father is not a Muslim. So then she has to go into the next step. The next step would be ثُمَّ جَدُّهَا, yani her grandfather on her father's side. Now pay attention. The wilayah in Al-Islam does not go to any male on the mother's side. Everything goes on the father's side. Again, the wilayah, meaning the guardianship of a Muslim woman, it goes by way of the father's side of the family. So, after the father, and the father didn't leave a will, then the wilayah or the guardianship would go to her grandfather who is Muslim. And if you don't have a grandfather that's Muslim, then it would go to the great grandfather on the father's side. So my father's father, father, and up. Is that clear? That's the next step. So assume that they don't have that. She doesn't have that. The next step, summa ibnuha, then her son. Then her son. So, they consider usul wal furur, where she comes from, meaning her father's side, and who comes after her, meaning her son. So, her father, if her father is not there, then her grandfather, her grandfather, her great grandfather, etc., all by way of the father. The child, her son, it will be her son, right? Then her son's son, then her son's son's son, etc. on down. That's the next list for being her wali. Like, if that doesn't work, meaning her father on up, her son on down, who's next? The next person, thumma akhuha. So what that means is, let's say a sister, she says, my brother, she has a son like 20 years old, 25. She has a brother like, 45, whatever. She says, no, my brother doesn't represent that. Her son. Her son, who ahaq bi wilaya, that's his right. That's the son's right. The uncle cannot take the son's right in that regard. But they should work together. It doesn't mean that they don't work together and come together on that issue. So the next one is the son going down. Then after the son, we mentioned Thumma Akhuha. Now pay attention to this. It's very detailed. Islam explains it as such. It says, Thumma Akhuha li Abawain. Her brother from the same mother and father is after the son. Is that clear? Her brother from the same mother and father. In Islam, this is called al-akh al-shaqiq. Al-akh al-shaqiq. Meaning, what do you call it? What do you call a brother from the sons, right? No, but they're all whole brother? Oh, whole brother. I never heard that. Is that Ohio term? That might be Ohio term.
I think so.
Whole half.
Whole half?
I mean, you have.
I never heard of
Half
it.
brother, like you got same mother, different father, vice versa.
I heard the half, but I never heard the whole. I mean, it makes sense though.
I mean,
It makes sense.
Cool.
All right.
Play it.
Anyway, the brother from the same mother and father, they're next in regards to being the wali. Then after that, then it's Thumma akh li ab. Then it's her brother from the same father. So what that means is, let's say her father has her, right? And he has other siblings by her mother, and then the father has another son by another woman, right? That's not her mother. So after her brother from the same mother and father, then her brother from the same father takes precedence after that. Well, what about her brother from her mother? If her mother remarries and has another brother, he doesn't serve as her wali, mutlaq. Nihaiyan, he does not serve as her wali. And we're going to get to that later, how you can fix that. But right now, textually, he's not even included. The brother from the same mother is not included. However, the brother from the same father is in fact included. And the reason for this, a person may say, well, why is that? Why is the children from the mother excluded from the children from the father? This all goes back to Islamic inheritance. Islamic inheritance law dictate who receives what. In terms of lineage, the children from the father have a closer lineage than children by way of the mother. So, for example, I'm going into something else, but I think it's important to halfway explain this. If a sister has a brother from the same mother and father, that is the closest lineage to her. Then if the sister has a brother by way of the father, then that's the second closest lineage to her. And then if she has another brother just by way of her mother, but not by way of the father, then that's the least lineage to her. So her strongest lineage, the same mother and father. The next level, the same father. The third level is just by way of the mother. Is that clear? Right. So then, after we get past the brother from the same mother and father, then the brother from the same father, then Benuhuma, yani then the children from that brother, meaning her nephews, by way of her brothers, from the same mother and father, or from the same brother or same father. Is that clear? Yeah, I know. So we mentioned the brothers, right? The brother from the same mother and father, then the brother from the same father. The children from those two groups of brothers, the cousins, takes the same rule. Meaning, I'm sorry, not the cousins, the nephews, right? So her male nephews from the same mother and father, brother, and then the nephews from the way of the father. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You sure?
Nephews.
All right, the nephews, okay? Once you get past the nephews, who's next? Because now after that, then we have, so the nephews come before the what? What family member did we mention? We mentioned the father, the sons, the brothers, the nephews. Who didn't come? The uncles. So the uncles are after the what? The nephews.
Remember, this is assuming, y'all. This is
Everybody's Muslim.
Everybody's Muslim. Everybody fit all those conditions that we previously read already. And then you got to go through the order like this.
Right. Then after that, then they move to the uncles. In Islam, the uncle is called Ammu, right? The Ammu is the uncle on the father's side. Al-Khalu is the uncle on the mother's side. So they are maternal uncles and paternal uncles. Paternal being on the father's side and maternal being on the mother's side. The uncles on the mother's side are not considered walis at all. The uncles on the mother's side are not considered walis at all. But we're going to get back to that, how that can be, in our situation, it's a little bit different. But the text is that those uncles on the mother's side cannot be included in the list of walis, right? So then it says the uncle on the father's side have the same mother and father take precedence, right? Then after them, the uncle by way of the same father, and then their children, then their children. Does that make sense? All right. After that, we're going to stop there. After that, we'll mention the inheritance part. After that, we'll go back down. So, if a woman doesn't have anybody that fits that description, what should she do? Hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, "As-sultanu wali man la wali lahu." And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said the sultan, meaning the leader, is the wali for the women that do not have a wali. So let's tie this all in as it relates to us living here in America. We do not have a sultan here. We do not have an Islamic leadership here. We do not have an imam, as they call them, that control the affairs. So, as it relates to us here in the U.S. and other Western countries, etc., then you have to, as many of them say, return the affair back to the Marakas al-Islamiyya, yani the Islamic centers or masjids, etc. Someone may say, well, where did that come from, right? So you can find in some of the books of the Salaf, particularly as it relates to this, they say that Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah, was asked about, what about a woman who accepts Islam in a place and she has no wali? What should she do? Right? In this case, some of them say that she should look for a man or a man that's righteous, solid, and she should pick that person to be her wali. Right? Many of the ulama today, they say if you're in a place like America or anywhere in the West, those women should refer to the Islamic centers or masajid and let someone there represent them. Now, let's draw it all in now because we mentioned that, let's say she has a Muslim brother from from her mother, who has more right to represent her? A person at the masjid or her Muslim male family members on her mother's side? I'm asking you all, who has more of a right? Huh?
Brother.
The brother. Why would the masjid have more of a right to represent the sister than our own uncle on our mother's side? Does that make sense? Why would the masjid, do you think, who's going to do a better job? Her uncle, her mother's brother who's Muslim, or the brother at the masjid who you don't know? Who's going to do a better job? The uncle. What about her brother from her mother who's Muslim? You think the masjid is going to do a better job than her own brother? Realistically speaking, no. Right? So then here we have to think a little bit here. Yes, we said that technically the men on the mother's side do not serve as wali, right? Technically. However, in our environment, that's the best option if everything else is not in place. That's the best option if everything else is not in place, right? The best option may not be to go to the masjid. Maybe the sister don't trust the men at the masjid, right? That's a possibility, right? Who is she going to trust more, her brother or you?
To make it clear, a sister goes to the masjid and she talks to a person that she doesn't know, as we say, from a can of paint. You expect the person you don't know from a can of paint to look out for you in your best interest more than your uncle who possibly raised you, but he's on your mother's side. Everybody get the idea?
I'll say this because within us, sometimes we have a bit of extremism, right? We'll read through this text and say, my uncle, my mother's brother is not included, he can't be my uncle. Right? Because based off the text on what you just said, you mentioned from the scholars of the past, this is what it is, and sorry, uncle, you can't be my going to the masjid. We're going to say, no, that's not what we said. What we said was, technically, he's not included from the wilayah. However, in our condition living here, he has way more right to represent you than any brother in the masjid. The brother in the masjid don't know you. Couldn't tell us anything, we don't know. And in reality, you come into the masjid and you have a brother that's Muslim, an uncle that's Muslim on your father's side, or your mother's side, you may be setting yourself up for failure. You may be setting yourself up for failure. Like, should we go into the Wakil part or do you want to wait?
Maybe we can go with the questions.
Okay. Like, any questions about that so far? Sisters, brothers, anybody? Sisters in the back, if you have any questions, you can sign up, inshallah.
So make sure, sisters, you got to make sure you have to use your brain. Like, for real.
No, seriously, no. I mean, how else can you say?
There's nothing wrong with going to the masjid. Pay attention to what happens when you go to the masjid. You go to the masjid and you don't know the person there. The expectation, which we got to do thoughts of the Muslims, is that they're going to do their job, inshallah. Like, you expect the person that doesn't know anything about you. So what the wali actually has to do is he has to learn who you are, what you like, your dislikes, your tendencies. When your uncle, that possibly sometimes, you know, we are, some of our uncles and aunts, they raised us, some of us, right? He's Muslim, he knows you, he knows he's a Muslim, and you're going to cancel him out and go talk to a total stranger and expect a total stranger to do what your uncle would have did. You see the picture? Yes, technically it might work like that, but we have to use it in a realistic situation. Sometimes, all the time, we got to use our brains.
Is there ever a situation where the wali can be canceled out for the second choice? Like, say the father, her father's Muslim, but he hasn't been in her life. Or she has a brother or a son. Is there any way she can cancel out that to have the person that knows her better represent her? Or is that, how does that work?
So the brother asks, is there any way to cancel out the father if the father hasn't been in her life, to cancel him out and go with the son? the son or whatever. What we'll say, and Allah knows best, I would say, don't cancel the father out, rather include him along with the son. Why is that? Because they're both working on her behalf, right? He's not working for himself. The father's not working for himself. The son's not working for himself. They're working for her. Two heads is always better than one. And you look, both of those men represent defense mechanisms for her. So the more the merrier. Okay.
Any other questions? Sisters, got any questions back there? Okay. That's you right here.
Huh?
That's you. What's this here? That's not good. That's my check. When we get here.
So you want to speak about the Wali thing first? Yes. I mean the Wakil?
I mean when we get there. Once we do this.
You have to be the oldest brother. Okay, you pick any one of the family.
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
You have to be the oldest brother.
Where's she about the hash?
See.
Hash it right there?
Right here.
Look at it. It's a good question. We'll get to that. Check that out. That's a good question. The brother said, does it have to be the oldest brother? You would think logically it should be, but we're going to look that up. Can you please tell me the difference between Wakil and Wali? So it came up again. How do you? My mother's shot is worse than I don't have anything. All right, so we'll answer these questions really quick right here, right? It says, Assalamu alaikum. Can you please tell me the difference between a Wakil and a Wali? We explained this a couple of years ago, I believe, right? And we'll have to do it again, obviously. In Islam, we have. In Islam, we have legislative buying and selling, right? In Islam, we have a whole fiqh of buyur, meaning buying and selling in Islam, right? A wakil, the term wakil is considered a representative. A wakil is a representative. That means, if I want to, let's say I give Muhammad, I said, Muhammad, I want you to go to the store for me and buy me a size 10.5 pair of sneakers. I give Muhammad $2. He goes to the store and buys the pair of sneakers for me. Muhammad now is my wakil. He's my wakil, right? Is that understood? Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, La nikah illa bi wali. He said that a woman cannot be married unless she has a wali, not wakil. So the question now is, what is a wakil? A wakil is a representative of any person. A representative of any person. Question, can a sister have a wakil? Yes, she can have a wakil that represents her from buying and selling. Can a sister have a wakil when it comes to getting married? No. A sister cannot have a wakil when it comes to getting married. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, La nikah illa bi wali. A woman cannot be married unless she has a wali. So a sister may say, well, wait a minute, brother. I hear everybody saying they have wakils. And I'm saying that people don't know what they're talking about. It's that simple. They don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
There's no such thing. A sister cannot be married with a wakil. What is that? Where'd that come from? Where was that even taught? Who taught that? Whoever taught you that, call your teachers on the card. It's that simple. There's no such thing as a sister getting married with a wakil. Now, who can have a wakil? The wali can have a wakil. A sister cannot marry herself off to someone else. Rather, she needs a wali. And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam said, La nikah illa bi wali. A sister cannot be married unless she has a wali. Cool. Let's say she has a wali, her father, her brother, her cousin, whatever. She goes to the masjid. The masjid representing her as her wali. Now, let's say, for example, Muhammad in the masjid is Sister Fulana's wali. Are we understanding that? Muhammad in the masjid is sister Fulana's Wali. Muhammad says, I'm not going to be able to stand in right now. What should I do? Muhammad says, I'm not able to stand in right now. What should I do? So Muhammad says, you know what? I'm going to grab Ismail to come represent me. He's my Wakil, meaning the Wali's Wakil, not the sister's Wakil. Does that make sense? Remember what we said, a Wakil is a representative. A representative, right? Does that make sense? Any questions about that before we move on? This needs to be thoroughly understood. A sister does not get married with a Wakil. A sister does not get married with a Wakil. What is a Wakil? A Wakil is a representative of anyone. I can have a Wakil. Saeed can have a Wakil. Whatever. Everybody can have a Wakil. A sister can have a Wakil when it comes to buying and selling. A sister cannot have a Wakil when it comes to marriage. Why can't she have a Wakil when it comes to marriage? Because a sister can't marry herself off. She can't have a representative and marry herself off. Only her Wali can marry her off, and her Wali can have a Wakil, not the sister. I hope that makes sense. Did I lose anybody? I did? I did not. Sisters, is that clear? It's not clear? Okay, I'm leaving.
Inshallah. It says here, what if the only person that qualifies to be your wali is in jail? I'm assuming.
What's that question?
What if the only person that qualifies to be your wali is in jail? Assuming that the wali is part of the line of lineage that was mentioned. That's the assumption, right? I'm assuming that. If the wali is in jail, then at the least, the wali still needs to be contacted. Because people in jail doesn't mean that they can't be reached, that there's no communication between them.
And the proof for this, I'm sorry, and the proof for this is this. If you look through the books of the Sunnah, it talks about a wali being far away. As long as you can write a letter and it reaches him, and a wali can respond by letter, then his wilayah is not taken away from him. Hayyun yurzaq, he is alive and living, right? So his wilayah cannot be taken, even if he is in prison. However, it's going to be difficult for him to do his job thoroughly. So therefore, he may want to get a wakil. He may want to get a what? A wakil. To marry off his child or whoever from him. Now,
hopefully you understood it's going to be difficult for the wali in prison to do his job. Now the question, sisters, is do you know what the job of the wali is? The job of the wali. Question for the sisters and the brothers. Don't all speak at once back there. No. Brothers need to know. Brothers, and we have to know the job of the wali. Because the man that's in prison, like he said, he's not going to be able to carry out what he needs to carry out as a wali, as a guardian, as a protector over you. The wali is to protect you in every sense of the word. The same way he will protect his daughter or his mother is the way he is to protect you when you go to the masjid. That's his job. So the man that's in jail, even though he's in prison, he's locked up, it doesn't mean you erase him and scratch him. I'm going to just use him because you want to marry your brother real quick. Because that's the words we use around. Everybody say real quick. We don't do nothing real quick in here, y'all. Not here. But we use these words a lot real quick. So because you want to marry him real quick, you go scratching something. He locked up. Or he ain't dean and he ain't this. So I'm going to just use him real quick. It doesn't go like that. The fact that he can be reached, you can talk to him. He needs to be contacted. And then after that, it's better that he gets a wakil, somebody else that's on the street. Because the brother who's your wakil, your wali, he's supposed to hit the streets and, as we say, do the homework on the brother and make sure he's worthy of you marrying. His job is to make sure the brother you talking about marrying is worthy. That you're not just marrying you off to any old person. That he's marrying off to somebody that's worthy, as if he would do the homework and investigate brothers for his daughter or his sister or his mother. That's his job. So you can't, as the sheikh said, you can't speedball him and rush him to do his job. Well, there's the word, we just want to make it halal. Well, because you want to make it halal, you can't cut into the wali's job of investigating. The investigation might take more than a month. Yeah, possibly. I got to go and find out what neighborhood he's from. Who knows him? Where does he pray? Right? What masjid does he pray in? It don't have to be my you pray where I pray at, but where does he pray? Does the man pray in the masjid? Who knows him in the masjid? He says, yeah, I pray at such and such. So what is the wali going to do, sisters, in case y'all don't know? The wali is going to go to that masjid and ask around, yo, you know such and such, brother, such and such? Where do you work? He works here. But that's what a wali is going to do. He's going to thorough check. Not just let you walk up and say, I'm trying to marry the brother. He marries real quick and stand in for me. That's not his job. His job is not a stand-in. His job is to protect. Al-Wali is a guardian, a protector. That's why Allah is Al-Wali. Al-Wali. And the person's name is Abdul Wali, the slave of the guardian, the protector. And that's the job of the Wali in the situation of the sister. Now, if the brother, for example, is in jail, or Wali is in jail, so he can't do it, he does what? He gets a Wakil. He says, he might call his brother up, maybe it's his blood brother, whoever he gets, listen, I need you to be the Wali over a sister, right? Even his Wakil has the same job. Make sure that you are in the best position when you get married. Sis, you can't rush that. And it always happens. The sisters rush the brother, don't let him do his job, and in 6 months they upset. Or 3 months sometimes, or less than that. So we need to make sure for the brothers, when you accept the responsibility of being a wali, that's on you, Yom Qiyam. You're responsible to look out for that sister as if she's your daughter. That's your job, brothers. And for the sisters, you gotta let the brother do his job.
So just a quick rehash on the Wakil and the Wali. Right? Somebody might say, oh, just words. It means the same thing as using terms. Here's the thing. Terms have meanings, right? If you're going to use a word, understand the word that you use. If you're going to use a word, understand the word that you use. If you're going to use the term Wali and Wakil, we need to understand what those terms represent. Because what happens is, it looks small right now. That's this generation. We're all dead and gone, and the term Wali was replaced with Wakil, and everybody stands on it, for example. No one knows. No one was properly educated on the difference in terminologies. So that's very important. It's not just, oh, it's a play on words. It's not a play on words. These are legislative terms that Islam uses. These are legislative terms that Islam uses that are defined in books of fiqh and usul. Right? This is why we're going to use the terms. Let's understand the terms that we use. Now, the next one. My cousin on my mother's side is Muslim. I don't have any men, including my father, that is Muslim. Will my cousin be my wali? We already answered that. But just to answer it again, if, according to the list that we mentioned, if none of the men on that in your family fits those requirements, then the next step is to look to the masjid. Why would you go to the masjid if you have a Muslim family member that can best represent you? So in this case, it's best that your cousin represents you if they're practicing Muslim and fit the conditions, inshallah ta'ala. Like, so if you only have 2 Muslim sons who don't practice, and one brother from her mother, but neither practice, does she go to the masjid? So just answer that, right?
Well, number one, what is practice? What does practice mean?
What does practice mean?
That's a problem. Practice to some people, y'all. Practice to some people is the way a person dress.
Yes.
Practice to some people is what masjid they pray in. So it depends on what you mean by practice.
Are they Muslim? Here's the issue. The question now is, if your son died, do you pray janazah over him or you don't pray janazah? Yani, is he a Muslim or is he not a Muslim? If he's not a Muslim, then he can't serve as your wali. If he is a Muslim, even if he has some sins, maybe he has some open sins, maybe he's not where he needs to be, he's still a Muslim, right? So then you have to answer those questions. You have to answer those questions. Because it goes back to the question of one of the conditions that he mentioned in Zad al-Mustaqni' is al-adala. Al-adala means that they are considered upright, etc., right? But this condition is mukhtalifun fi. Some of the salaf differ on that being a condition. Some of them differ on that being a condition in and of itself. So when you say you have 2 sons that don't practice, But you see, you have two Muslim sons that don't. I don't that's a term we use in the U.S. They're Muslim but don't practice. What does that mean? Because now we're speaking technical. We're getting real technical here. How can you be a Muslim but not practice Islam? What does that look like? And I'm saying this, you might say you guys are splitting hairs. We studied Islamic judicial law, and everything is scrutinized to a T. If you say you're a Muslim and don't practice, define that to me. What does that look like? And in your opinion, if that person died, would you pray janazah over them, yes or no? Are they Muslim, yes or no? Right? Because we have to, and these are questions that you have to ask yourself as it relates to that, inshallah. Now,
a lot of sisters, they'll come and they'll say the same thing. When they come here, the first question we got, y'all, brothers come here with the sisters. Sometimes they come here, they want to get married. The question is, who's your Wali sister? Such and such. So you don't have no Muslims in your family. Well, yeah. Well, how is this person your Wali and you got Muslim men in your family? So who's Muslim in your family? Sometimes they say my father, my brother's Muslim. Okay, so if your brother is Muslim, then why is your brother not your Wali? He ain't practicing. What do you mean he's not practicing? Does he pray? You know, I don't know. Nah, he like on and off. Is he Muslim or not? Because we don't proceed like that. And you gotta be careful. You don't want to trump somebody and scratch somebody off, and it's their right. It's serious. So the first question they come, who's your Wali? Is he Muslim? He not really practicing. Then they say, does he pray? I don't know if he prays.
I don't see him pray.
That's not.
I don't see him pray.
It sounds like it might sound like splitting hairs, but it's serious.
Here's the thing, if you were in an Islamic country and went to an Islamic court, the way we're asking the questions is the exact same way a judge will ask questions. If you sit in front of a judge and say, my brother doesn't practice, what do you say? He's going, what is that? You leave Islam? No, I'm not saying that, but what are you saying? Does he commit sins? He may commit sins, okay. Is he Muslim or not? Because now, and then you don't want to fall into the category now because you could potentially make it takfir or something. You say, oh, this person's not Muslim and they are Muslim, they open up a whole other can of worms.
You want to do that?
Which one?
Yes. That's your name on.
No, you put my name.
I didn't. Oh, I did the first one. Tell you, what are some common mistakes made by potential, that's the first page, attendees?
Where's my
name? Where? What you mean? Oh, which one?
Yeah.
The third one. All right, go ahead. What are some common mistakes made by the potential attendees from the Wakil, Wali point of view? Attendees? Oh, the two people get married. Intended. The common mistakes by potential attendees. One of the biggest mistakes, sisters, is y'all let the men dictate who your Wali is going to be. That's one of y'all biggest mistakes. The man you potentially going to marry has no call. It's not up to him. Y'all put it in his hands and let him dictate the situation. So what he do? He go get his cousin to stand there. Or he go get a friend of his to stand in for you. So what happens? You get married. As soon as y'all have a problem, the Wali is supposed to protect you. So now you got to call his cousin up. Now say you did wrong 100%. Always in the back of your mind, you're going to think he's just taking his side because that's his cousin. You could be 100% wrong. You with me? Say you are right. Now the brother and his cousin have what? Now they have issues because now his cousin is in all of his information. All the ways inside of his information. You see the problem, the men, one of the biggest problems is sisters allow the man that she wants to marry, choose her Wali. And the man has nothing to do with that. It's not his business. All he needs to know is, who's the man do I need to talk to? Who's your Wali so I can go talk to him? That's all his business. Not who is he. Well, listen, what man should he go to? Then he starts grilling the sister about who her Wali is. No, he shouldn't even be your Wali. She said, no, you be Wali. Now she ready to flip. I'm gonna assign you another one. Now you're gonna let him assign a person who's gonna protect and guard you. That's one of the biggest mistakes from the sisters, as far as the attendees. And one of the biggest mistakes from the brothers is not doing homework on who the sisters are. Everybody in a rush. We live in, like they say, the microwave generation. Everything gotta be fast. You don't do no homework, meet people on the internet, and get married in a week. And then gonna wonder why it's problems. Not doing homework. We call it doing homework. What's a better word? Homework. Like, everybody understands doing homework, right? We gotta hit the streets and investigate people. Make sure she is who she says she is. Just like the Wali needs to make sure the brother is who he says he is.
Just like in cases when a sister get married to somebody or Wali, he needs to be able to see the brother's ID.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
There's brothers that come here and expect the center to marry them off, but we can't see ID. Who are you? We don't even know who you are.
Abdul. You know me.
One case, a brother came in here with 2 different IDs.
2 IDs.
Two IDs with 2 names. Well, which one are you? Are you Frick or Frank?
I don't know who you are.
Like, come on. How can you expect us to respect that type of, you give us 2 IDs? Like, come on.
This is a good question. What if the Wali tells the sister that the brother she wants to marry is not suitable and she still wants to marry him? So they go somewhere else and their marriage is valid and she can fire her Wali. That's your problem, sis. That's your problem.
Don't come back to us.
The Wali is there to protect you. He did the investigation. He came back and said, listen, go out of pocket. I ain't even say that.
You gotta speak the language people understand, man.
My man, he's not right. He's not suitable for marriage. I wouldn't marry him to my daughter. That's what he told you. You fire him. You remove him from being a Wali and go choose another Wali. That's your decision when it doesn't work out, when it backfires. Can it happen and can the marriage be valid? It can possibly happen, and yes, the marriage could be valid based on the situation. But believe, problems, and that happens all the time. It happens all the time. The Wali is there, y'all, to protect you. You trusted the brother enough to pick him in the first place. Now, things not moving as fast as you wanted to move, so you're upset. Now he's doing too much. Are you doing too many questions? That's his job. He's responsible for Allah. He can't do his job. And any man that knows the responsibility of the Wali, if you pressure him like that, he want to tell you go get another one. The man who knows, the man who doesn't really know, he gonna cave in like a lot of brothers do, and they say, man, I ain't want him to fall into nothing, so I just let him go ahead. Because of the pressure coming from, what's the statement? We just want to make it halal. He has a job, let him do his job. Now, if you choose to do that, then you have to deal with the consequences. You have to deal with the consequences.
What is this? Somebody posted a question online about the marriage should be done and that shit. Did we say that?
We said that?
We said that. We never said that. I'm just making sure.
It's encouraged.
I never even said it was encouraged.
It says there is no Sahih Hadith to have encouraged to do the marriage contract. There is no evidence.
I don't recall anybody saying that.
Like,
I never said it.
Read the next. What's the next?
All right, you want me to answer this?
The Wali is
Like, so we got an email about a sister looking for marriage, a thayyib. A thayyib in Islam is what? A thayyib is a woman that was married previously and she is no longer married anymore. And so the questioner, she said, can you please explain the Wali's position with a thayyib woman and the meaning of that she has more right to her son? In the books of when it speaks about a woman that is thayyib, meaning she was married before but she's not married now. This means, in the books of fiqh, it means that she has more of a right to choose who she wants to marry. She has more, not that a woman that's a virgin or bigger, she doesn't choose, but this is referring to the thayyib, she has more of a right to choose, to select. And then she says, well, how does a previously married woman contract her own marriage? Because the understanding here is she should be able to contract her own marriage. Her understanding is she should contract her own marriage. The only position that we know of where they say women can contract their own marriage is the fiqh of the Ahnaf. Imam Abi Hanifa, rahimahullah ta'ala, his madhab in particular, they hold the position that a woman can marry off herself without a wali. A woman can marry off herself without a wali. However, the majority position, salafin wa khalafin, yani from the scholars of the past up until now, is they hold to the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, la nikah illa biwali. La nikah illa biwali. She says if she marries with no wali present, in a case of Salama. Salama, she married the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam with no wali wa no shuhud. With no wali wa no shuhud. Meaning, and so some brothers might look at that like, I'm gonna marry you because some brothers they read hadith, etc. Right? And they'll say, I found a sahih hadith, and it says that the Prophet ﷺ, when he married Salama, she was already married, and she didn't have a wali, and there was no witnesses. So I'm gonna move like that. In the Sharia, in the Islamic legislative law, there are certain things considered khasa'is al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This means that these things were specific for the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Just like the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he married more than 4 wives, right? So a brother might look at that and say, oh, Allah says 4 in the Quran, like the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam had 9. So I'm gonna add and increase on that because I'm following the Sunnah. I'm following the Sunnah, right? So the thing about it is, this is why it's very important to understand your deen. Sometimes you can't just open up a book of hadith and start reading, so okay, I want to start implementing all of this. It doesn't work like that. You need to have some true, solid understanding of what you're reading and what you're understanding. So as it relates to this, once again, a thayyib, this is a woman that was married previously, and she wants to get married again. She has more basira, she has more insight on who's good for her versus who's not. And what that also means, she was married before, so she knows what she's looking for more in a husband than a woman that was never married before. But it doesn't mean that she gets married without a wali. It doesn't mean she gets married without a wali. And as it relates to Salama, that this was something that was specific to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Now,
sisters, it's a question here, but this for y'all to write down, please. Just based on what we did so far, just write down and send it up. What are characteristics of a good wali or wakil? What are the characteristics of a good wali? Y'all write something, write whatever you think down, write it down and just send it up. It says here, what is their role? What is the role of the wali during and after divorce? Or what should it be? Well, based on the fact that the wali is what? The wali is always, as we describe it, her first line of defense. There's no way everybody else knows what's going on around you in your situation. You have an issue. Everybody knows what's going on, and your wali doesn't know what's going on. That's a problem. Your first line of defense doesn't know what's going on, but everybody else knows the problem. The one who's supposed to be there for protection, make sure everything goes right, to intercede if he needs to get involved, is the wali. Whether it's during a divorce specifically, because y'all gotta understand, sisters, I don't know if y'all understand, but men react different when men are involved. When you got a bunch of women you're talking to and you bringing all these women into the situation, the man's sitting there and there's no men involved, and he knows that. Therefore, he behaves a certain way. And when he knows there's men behind you, he behaves a certain way, in case y'all don't know. So when y'all remove all of the men from the picture, to some men, Allah forgive them,
it's called like you said, man.
It's sweet, man. Like I don't want to say that.
That's the language people understand.
It's a sweet bit, y'all. It's not like, you know what I'm saying? You become very vulnerable. It's a weak picture. You look weaker in his eyes to some men. Some men are like that. They don't see no men around.
No, it is.
Right? That's how they are. Some men are like that. They don't see any men backing you, and they see an opportunity. They can take advantage. And that's the problem. The wali is there, even if you're going through a divorce. How is it you're going through a divorce and your wali doesn't know you're going through a divorce? He don't have to know every single thing going on in the household, but the divorce, that means the marriage is great. He might need to intercede and talk what's going on. Maybe you misunderstood something from your husband that he didn't mean like that. Maybe he misunderstood you. That's what the Wali. He's your first line of defense, whether it's in the divorce or after the divorce. Some of these questions, hopefully, like based on what we covered so far, you should be able to kind of answer them based on the information we did so far.
So here, the question is, who is the Wakil or who is the Wali of the center here? Is one of the questions. He's in the back over here.
Blue hat on.
With a blue hat. His name is Brother Naeem. He just took the hat off. He deals with the affairs of the women here in the center. And for the sisters that want to go through him, please be patient with him because he's inundated with a lot of people. And he's very busy. And there's a problem. I'm sorry. You want to come mention that? Yeah, and so the process, the way Naeem works is, he's the type of person, if you bring him a brother, he's probably gonna go to his job. He wants to see where he lives. He's going to, so it takes time, right? It's not like in and out. He's gonna do his due diligence. And so you have to be patient with that. And there are some people that call up to the center, some sisters that call up here, they're dealing with situations, and they get upset because he doesn't respond back quickly enough. He's the only one person. Now, if there's any brothers out there that want to help him, please come and give him. You gotta be older though. How old are you? You're too young, brother. How old is that? Nah, man, you too young. We need somebody a little older. You don't got no grades, brother.
Sisters, another thing is when y'all come to the Center for Wali, and we always tell everybody who comes, the brothers and the sisters, it's not gonna be smart, but we just being honest. We have a procedure. We got procedures. The procedures is to protect everybody. Sometimes it takes longer than the person expected. We tell them when we talk to them, listen, if you're uncomfortable with these procedures, it's not to be smart enough, but you can go anywhere you want to get married. You don't have to get married here. We're not making it like everybody got to come here to get married. That's not the case. That's just more responsibility on us. You can go anywhere you want to get married. This procedure, the nikah, after nikah can happen anywhere. Don't have to be here, IMFC. But if you come here, we have procedures that we go through. We have a process in order to try to protect everybody and make sure everybody gets their rights. If that makes people uncomfortable, we tell them every time, you can go anywhere you want. You ain't gotta come here, but if you come here, just expect that we trying to help. We're not trying to like sideball nobody, but it takes time.
All right, so here's a question right here. You want to deal with this one? It says a wife is not happy and she wants a divorce from her husband and he knows. She gives back the dowry with the intention of divorcing her husband and accepts it. The wife didn't ask specifically for a khula and the husband did specifically give the khula. He did not, but the intention is for a divorce. Is the divorce valid or are they still married? All right, so this is a woman saying this, right? So if you were in a court of law in Islam, the asl is that you're still married, right? Until the husband, who yamliku al-talaq, the husband holds the divorce in his hand, right? So if you gave him the dowry and he took it, but he may have taken it without not in mind that this is return the dowry so that you can get a khula. Maybe he doesn't understand it to be that way. And the only way you can understand that is someone will have to communicate with him. You'll find in the books of fiqh, it talk about issues like that, kol is zoj, meaning the state will go back to the husband. If the husband says, no, when I took it back, I didn't intend by a talaq, then it's not a talaq, it's not a divorce. This is why it's recommended, if this were to happen, it's good for a sister to have witnesses, right? And the brother, is clear, can you grab that? It's clear that the brother took back the dowry for that sake of talaq. So in essence, if he did not state that he wanted, that he granted her a khula, then the asl is that they're still married. The origin is that they are still married, right? Should a husband fear to take on another wife due to it possibly cause a problem in the household?
What's the question?
You saw the question. You circled it.
Should the husband fear to take on another wife due to it possibly causing a problem in the household? Somebody should the husband fear losing his first wife? Well, sisters, it depends on what the first wife is doing. Some husbands do fear losing their first wife and some don't. It all depends on the first wife a lot of times. This is an issue that we're probably going to have to deal with by itself, a whole lecture like we're doing now for the Wali on plural marriage, because the problem is, sisters, realistically, from a man's point of view, if you don't know, if the first wife doesn't have like valid reason for her not wanting her husband to take on a second wife, what's going to happen is the threat of the man losing his first wife is going to do one of two things. Either it's going to stop him from getting married or it's not. If it stops him from getting married, sister, understand that even though you stop him from getting married, he's going to carry something in his chest. He's always going to have a problem with you now. He might not say anything. Brothers is over here shaking their head. I'm just telling y'all. We didn't sit around and talk about this, sisters. The brothers are here shaking their heads. Like, y'all, the fact that the man is trying to do something to guard his chastity, to guard his modesty, to lower his gaze, whatever he feels the reason is he needs to get married, it's permissible Islamic. It's not pleasing to you. So what do? You put up a whole thing and you're going to steer him away from doing what is allowed for him to do, right? If it goes that way and he chooses not to, just understand that he's definitely going to have a problem. He's going to have a problem with you. He might not say nothing, but he's going to walk around with that problem, that issue. That issue is going to be there. Understand that a man takes on a second wife due to a need that he sees to protect himself. So the question is, sis, do you really want your husband to tell you why he's taking on a second wife? You want the real answer? I doubt it. But the sisters ask, why you gotta get married? And he's trying to preserve your feelings. So he tells you something and you don't accept that. You don't accept it. We gotta be realistic. But this in itself needs a whole conversation because we have to deal with the reality in front of us, y'all. We can't act like things are not realistic. We gotta be realistic. If you do something like that, and I'm just telling you, sisters, the brothers are shaking their heads. The brother walks around with something in his heart for his first wife, he has a problem there. Because I'm trying to do something that Allah legislated to do. I'm trying to guard myself, and she's not allowing me to. You understand? And there's a lot more that can be said from both sides, but that's going to need a whole talk on itself, maybe, inshallah.
All right, next question. How many times can you divorce and remarry for it to no longer be a valid marriage? Ooh. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, al-talaqu marratan. Allah says that the talaq is 2 divorces, right? Oh, I see your face. What do you mean 2 divorces, right? 2 divorces in which you can take her back. The 3rd divorce, you cannot take her back. If you divorce her 3 times, that's it. The only time you can take her back after that is if she marries someone else, they consummate the marriage, they get a divorce, and then you could marry her again. What about the khula? Some majority of the scholars of Islam, they hold a khula to be the same. Meaning after 2 khula'as, the 3rd khula, and after the 3rd one, and that's it. However, there is a position that a lot of people follow here in this town that you can get a khula as many times as necessary, right? So, and they know, the husband and the wife, they know. They say, hey, if I get a divorce, that means I'm done. So, I got 2 divorces, 1 more divorce, I'm done. So we just ask for a khula to do it that way, and then we can keep, this is what people do. This is what happens, right? Because they know that side, but they don't know the other side. Both of them could be considered li'ba, playing in the deen. And this is why you find many of the salaf, they hold that the khula takes the same position as the talaq. Like, when a husband has to take on another household and he's responsible for the bills, what bills specifically is he responsible for? So I'm assuming here a husband gets remarried. So he has multiple wives, right? It says, and he's responsible for the bills. What bills specifically is he responsible for? So here we're going to speak about the usul. The usul, or the rule of thumb, is a man is responsible for food, clothing, and shelter. Food, clothing, and shelter. If he marries another woman, the origin is that he's responsible for food, clothing, and shelter unless she relieves him of those rights. Unless she relieves them of those rights. What brothers don't understand is this. Let's say you marry a woman and she relieves you of those rights. Food, clothing, and shelter. And then one day she says, you know what? Forget that. I want all that. Right? Then you laugh, it's her. She said, forget all that. I want all my rights. Then at that point in time, it becomes obligatory for that man to provide food, clothing, and shelter. Is that understood? At that point in time, somebody, oh, she said, when we first got married, she said, I have to do all that. Well, she changed her mind now. So now you have to do all that. Brothers looking for other opinions now. There ain't no other opinion. It's no other, that's her right. If she says, I want you to pay all my bills now, obviously from food, clothing, and shelter, it doesn't include a cell phone though. It doesn't include, huh? Want me to stop?
I said, you want me to stop? You want me to stop?
He like, oh, chill.
He like, chill.
No, what'd you say?
Don't say that.
No, that's... Yes, he should be providing shelter. That's another issue. A lot of the brothers in our community, they move in with the women. Now, there are some exceptions, but brothers, you should not be moving into the house of a woman. Period. You know why? Because once you move into her house, she calls the shots, not you. How you gonna move into a woman's house and try to tell her how to move in her house? In the beginning, she's gonna be cool with it for a while. So, okay, no problem. Cool. Say something wrong. You can get your stuff.
Go ahead.
Get your stuff, and you can just put my keys on the table and get up out of here. It's not funny, it's real. This is what happens, right? So what makes it permissible for a wife not to receive her rights, or her nights? What makes it permissible? I don't know of any legislation that says a wife can't receive her nights. If a woman is in a plural marriage, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, "Al-Muslimun ala shurutihim," that a Muslim are on the conditions that they set. So, if the husband says, "I'm not giving you your nights," this is oppression. It's oppression. It's oppression. So, even if she matches, no. Let's say, for example, a brother says, my wife's not listening to me, she does whatever she wants to do, etc. Does that mean he doesn't give her nights? No. However, in some cases, a husband, what is the days? If he has like 4 wives, how many days? 3 or 4 days, something like that? I forget the issue, and it's not coming to me, but there's a certain amount of days. If a husband is married to one woman, right? Legislatively, he does not have to spend every night in the house. I was like, oh, we get that from. All right, we'll go back and we'll revisit that later in more detail. Maybe in another lecture about the plural marriage situation. Like, how many?
What is the good character? This is what the sisters sent up. So now, sisters, mashallah, these are good. This is what the sisters sent up of what the question was about. What is a good wali? What are the characteristics of a good wali? Someone who's going to protect you on all levels. Someone who is honest. Someone who has your best interest at heart. Someone who fears Allah. Someone who follows the Quran and Sunnah. The wali, this is for the wali. They say the wali himself should be a provider. Right? The wali himself should be a protector. He should be knowledgeable. Practices what they know and implement. And they try to learn, seek knowledge about what they don't know. They say he should be delicate, truthful, protector, responsible for the bride and the one. He should be deaning, he should be studying, praying 5 times a day, trustworthy, Sisters, these are the characteristics that the brother should carry if you're one of those people who have to choose a wali. Communication, honest. He should have good communication skills. And somebody gave the brother, somebody gave the brother Naeem, he said, mashallah, he's good at that. It says here. It says a good wali makes himself, sister, a good wali makes himself available for the affairs as guardianship. Sometimes the sisters say, wali, who's your wali? I haven't spoken to him in 3 years. He moved to Alabama. He's in Texas, right? You don't talk to him, not since we've been married. How long y'all been married? Like 10 years. Right? Some brothers, some sisters just say, well, who's your wali? It was some brother, I can't remember his name. That's real stuff, real. They say it was some brother, I can't really remember his name. But where'd you find him? I forgot. We was on such and such, and he called somebody and they came, right? A good wali, she said again, honest. Takes time to check out the brother. Sisters, the wali takes time to investigate the man. A good wali keeps things confidential. Everybody should know your business, right? And he doesn't share things with other people. And the last one says the protector. All of those, mashallah, are good. Hopefully the sisters take it and benefit from it. Because at the end of the day, the wali is for the protection of the woman. It's to make sure that you are protected. It says here, can you have multiple sit-downs? Can you have multiple sit-downs? If you're not married to a person, and people do it. If you're not married and you're looking for marriage, then there's nothing wrong with sitting down with more than one person. Is that the best thing to do? Possibly not, maybe not. But is it like permissible? Is there a problem with it? There's no issue with sitting down with more than one person.
I can't sit through that.
Oh yeah. That's a serious one right there, Sheikh.
Which one?
Second page. Will the masjid ever have a meet and greet for anyone wanting to marry? I don't really know what meet and greet. I don't know about that.
So, all right, so we have a question here. Can you read?
Yeah.
Right. The sister says, Assalamu alaikum. I'm now divorced, so 35-year-old woman. My dad is a Muslim, has refused to find me a husband since I was 16. Before I married my now husband, I was begging him to look for someone for me to get to know, but he believed college was more important and would literally threaten men who did ask about me. Yes, I did marry my ex without my dad's permission. I asked for months to get him involved, and yes, I saw and knew the error of my ways, which is why I'm asking my question. There was a brother I liked who asked to speak to my dad. I gave him the number. He talked to my father, and the brother ghosted me. After a few years, I asked why he stopped talking to me, and he said it's because my dad talked to me about my ex. I was embarrassed and didn't ask him to elaborate any further. I'm 35, divorced, single with 6 children. Can I fire my father from being my wali? I want to do the right thing by going through my dad, but this has been going on for 20 years.
Okay.
So this question, as it is, this needs more detail. Why we don't even understand. This is coming from the sister without having spoken to the father. From her eyes, she sees one thing. If you talk to the father, he may say something totally different. You can't just fire your father based off what you say and without having someone look into the situation. Islam is serious. Islam is serious. The rights of the father is serious. You can't just say, oh, I'm just going to fire my dad because, you got married the first time without his consent, right? So I think that in this type of situation, it'll probably need some dialogue, some more questions asked, how, what happened, etc. And then someone needs to speak to you about it. And this would definitely be the case if you were in an Islamic country and went to an Islamic court. They would definitely want to speak to your father, want to speak to you, and want to figure out the details of the situation. And if you're asking us, then that's probably the route that we would take. we would actually want to speak to the father, speak to you, and figure out what happened along the process. However, sometimes just listening to a story from one side, and you hear it, it sounds bad, but you don't know the whole story. And this is why in Islam it's very important to get the facts, the whole story, before a person makes any type of judgments or rulings. Now,
Hey, the question is it's a sister, she's a new Muslim. And sisters, you should be able to answer this question based on everything we did so far. Everybody should. It's a new sister, she's new to Islam, she's looking to get married. She has an uncle on her mother's side, who is the only Muslim in her family serving as her wali. But he is currently incarcerated, and it is difficult to contact him and reach him. It's difficult to contact him, it's difficult for him to reach back out to brothers interested in his niece. So that the people, it's hard to get in contact with the brother because he's in jail. It's hard for the brother to get in contact with the brothers who are interested in his niece, right? This is his uncle, right? Her uncle, right? On what side? Her mother's side. Like, her question is, can she just go to the masjid and be appointed a wali, or select a trustworthy brother in the community to serve that role? That's the first question. Can she? Huh?
No. No.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't think no.
The question, sisters, can she, read the question again. Can she just go to the masjid and be appointed a wali?
No.
Or select a trustworthy brother in the community to serve that role? What do you say, sisters? You say yes or no question? No. Like, brothers? Some say yes, say some no. Possibly. Pay attention, y'all. Who's her wali as of now? Her uncle from where? Her mother's side. Does he have the legislative wilayah that we spoke about? So in reality, he is just as the masjid. But what we spoke about earlier is the uncle understands her situation and specifics about her. He would be more closer to understanding what she likes if she knows the uncle, assuming their relationship is good. He would have more understanding of his needs. He will understand what she likes, what she dislikes, what type of person she is than the person at the masjid. That doesn't mean she can't go to the masjid. That doesn't mean she can't choose a brother. But is that the best thing to do, to go to see a total stranger when you have a Muslim uncle? That's the issue, y'all get it? So the question, can she go to the masjid is the first question, or can she choose another brother? Yes. It says, or would the uncle have to sign off on it first and release his duties? Huh? Does the uncle have to sign off to release his duties? All right, let's do this, y'all. Let's stop using the word fire walis, all right? That's not a very welcoming, and it's not real, it doesn't give a good picture, especially for the women. It's not good. Like, let's say, can she substitute her wali, right? It gives more respect and honor to our women. She's aspiring. It makes it sound like she's inspiring people looking for somebody. We assume a lot of women are not doing that. So she's not firing her wali, she's going to substitute her wali. Does her wali, in this case, have to sign off his rights? No. Why not? Because he doesn't have any. Why doesn't he have any? Because he's the uncle from the mother's side and not the uncle from the father's side. Clear? Like, so yes, she can go. The question, y'all, is that the best thing to do? That's a different situation. Can she do that? She can do that. And the last thing says, even though he is incarcerated and not her uncle, she said it at the end. Even though she is incarcerated and not her uncle on her father's side. Like, clear the difference? Inshallah, that's clear. They done the cards? This one.
Can you?
Yeah, the next page. You did that?
The last one?
Yes.
I got this.
Yeah, come on.
Right. Sisters, assalamu alaikum. My question is concerning if your wali is incarcerated, how do you proceed with seeking marriage? I have no males in my family that are Muslim. About 7 years ago, I asked a close family friend to be my wali, and since then he has been incarcerated and we lost contact, but now he's seeking marriage. What should I do in this case? So, question is, my question is concerning if your wali is incarcerated. Okay. We already mentioned if the wali is incarcerated, as long as there's communication there, it doesn't remove him from being a wali. That's number one. How do you proceed with seeking marriage? I don't know what that means. How do you proceed with seeking marriage? What is that?
If he's locked up.
Yeah.
How do you get married if the wali is locked up? I guess.
So if the wali is locked up, as we mentioned before, the wali would need a wakil. You would need a wakil to represent him in that regard. I have no males in my family that are Muslim. About 7 years ago, I asked a close family friend to be my wali. Since then, he has also been incarcerated. All right. So in this case, whoever your wali is, if your wali is incarcerated, you can have him contact someone who he trusts to represent him in that regard to be the wali. But if I'm understanding this correctly, her wali is not a family member. So in that regard, she can just forego that and go to the masjid or any Islamic center and have them represent her if she sees fit. And even in some cases, as mentioned earlier, the position of Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah, where he said that a woman can find a person that she considers a good brother that can represent her. However, in most cases, in some cases, it may not be the best thing. And Allah knows best. Everyone's situation is different. But in that regard, she can go to an Islamic center and seek counsel that way. She can go to an Islamic center and seek a wali that way, inshallah.
When sisters are choosing their own wali that is not a masjid or a center, the problem, sisters, and we always recommend sisters, is better to go to an established masjid or center because they don't disappear like that. You choose a brother, you say he's a nice brother, good, then he disappears. Centers and like masajid don't necessarily, usually they don't just up and disappear like that, right? So, but then the issue comes up where some sisters, they're not comfortable with the brothers at the masjid, or they had a bad, whatever the case may be, they don't trust those people at the masjid to be their wali, so they choose a person, right? The problem is we have to know, sisters, you have to know what all of those descriptions that y'all sent up, those are the descriptions that you should be looking in a man, right? Not just because he's been around for 20 years. We got to stop using these superficial gauges to say the people doing right, they practice Islam or not. Just because he's been around for 20 years doesn't necessarily mean he knows how to be a wali. He knows how to be a protector. He knows how to do homework. Just because a lot of people know him doesn't mean he knows what he's doing, right? So sometimes you need to do homework on the brother before you make him your wali. I hope that's clear. Sometimes you have to do homework on the person that you're getting ready to ask to be your guardian. Make sure he's worthy of being a guardian. Clear? Which means you have to do, as we say, homework. You got to investigate. And a lot of that has to do with the men. Men know men. Men get to the bottom of stuff when it comes to men, right, y'all? But we know what questions to ask that sisters, y'all don't ask questions that men ask. And I'm saying this because sisters will say, I heard situations, the wali is saying, I got to talk to him a little more. She says, what? I already spoke to him. Inshallah. You already spoke to him. If that was the case, you'd be your own wali. That's what the sisters say, I already spoke to him. I asked him questions already. So what does that mean? The wali doesn't need to ask any more questions. You good. But we just stand in. What happens? We just stand in and do the marriage. And then it's a problem. Men ask specific questions, and then women ask questions. It doesn't mean you can't ask your questions. Yeah, we ask men questions, as we said. We said we ask men questions. We ask men questions. And all of the men know what we're referring to. So you have to give your wali a chance to do that. Don't cut his time off and rush him, because then he doesn't get to do what he needs to do. I hope that's clear when it comes to choosing your own wali outside of the masjid or the Islamic center.
Any more questions that we didn't do?
Is there any advice you can give?
All right. Can y'all bring them up, please? Can y'all bring them up, please? They on the email.
Oh, it is some Jones on.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
All right, here's a question. If a person were to present to the masjid a wali for her to get married, but the person doesn't fit the characteristics of a person able to be the wali, but the masjid has no knowledge of that, and they go through with the marriage for clarity, is this considered no or it's okay?
I didn't even hear you. I'm sorry.
Question. It says, if a person were to present to the masjid a wali, just the first part doesn't make sense.
Oh, they bring.
You mean they bring their own wali
Yeah.
to the masjid for marriage? Okay. All right. To present for her to get married, but the person doesn't fit the characteristics. But how would we know? That's not our job to investigate. If a sister comes to the masjid and she has a family member, father, etc., the list that we mentioned, and she comes with that person for marriage, to marry her off to someone else, we're not going to investigate a father or a brother or your uncle or etc. That's not our job, because once you come here, then you should already have it figured out. Yes.
It sounds like they saying if they brought somebody they want to be involved.
No. So they bring their own person. Yeah, I guess it is somebody want to be involved. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
But not for the family.
That's not what it's stated. At any event, so what happens here, I'll tell you what happens here. What happens here is a sister comes, she'll say we have a wali, they'll talk to Brother Naeem. The first thing the question is, well, you have any Muslim men in your family? No. Then it's just, oh yeah, my brother. What was it? Oh, this is my girlfriend's husband. Well, how is he serving as your wali? You have a brother that's a Muslim. Oh, so that's what we do. If a woman comes here, she says she has her own wali, then Naeem's going to investigate that. How are you our wali? What is the relationship there? How do you, so we're going to get through that process first. Once we get past that, then we'll move on to the next phase.
Is it wise to interact with a married brother that you know of already? I don't know what interact.
What does that mean? You mean him serving as her representative, maybe?
I guess. I don't know what that means, but regardless if he's married or not married, the man should have the characteristics that y'all mentioned. If he's married, not married, the wali should have the characteristics that a lot of y'all mentioned. This says, what if both father and brother are in Asia, and they will not be able to know the brother whom the sister wants to marry, although they are Muslims? The father and the brother are Muslims, they're both in Asia, and they can't get to know the brother that she wants to marry. Can she cancel them out?
No. In this case, we already mentioned, if you have a family member, they're far away, as long as you can communicate with them and have them put someone in place as a wakil for them. And then that way, that person can serve on their behalf.
Probably better to say, can they substitute, not cancel them out? That's
Yeah.
Wording is not. How does a sister who's new to Islam find a suitable, should be wali? How is a marriage viewed as it is pertaining to her, since marriage isn't? It's like a run on. Hold up. Here. You read this.
Does the wife of the wali have a say in any of the affairs of guardianship?
No.
Oh, the wife of the wali.
So here's the question. It says, do the wife of the wali have a say in any of the affairs and guardianship? No. Why would she?
How does the sister do this?
However, she might have a say as it relates to her husband. What your husband's doing. She might talk about it. That's what's understood by that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
You want something longer?
Sure.
Yeah, we can take more time. You have another finish your question?
Can brothers and sisters that were previously married with children and have been separated for maybe 2 years, can they start talking on the phone about reconciliation, or does she have? She still should have a wallet. Although we should be involved. No.
It says, can a brother and sister that were previously married with children, and they have been separated for maybe 2 years, can they start talking on the phone about reconciliation, getting back together? Or does she have to go to her Wali and ask her Wali to contact her ex about reconciliation, get back together? Sis, if y'all not married, y'all not married, period. Y'all was married, y'all divorced, y'all separated with y'all ways, this is life. You're not married to the man. I'm just telling y'all, as a man, when you don't involve men, the man that you're dealing with uses that to his advantage. If the sisters don't understand that, I'm telling you as a brother, just a big brother. It's like you my little sister. If you move the men out of the picture, the man, some men see that as a weakness and they try to take advantage. At no time should you be going into a situation and it's just you. That's what the benefit of the Wali. The benefit of the Wali. The Prophet said that there's no nikah bila Wali. And the other hadith and the proofs that come with it. It's a reason, it's wisdom. Islamically, there's wisdom in the legislation of there being a male guardian involved. When you remove the males from being involved, sisters, you open yourself up for a certain group of people. Allah protect you all from that, but I'm just telling you the reality of it. Even if y'all was divorced for 2 years and y'all want to get back together, alhamdulillah. The Wali needs to know what's going on. Don't let him, you know, I don't want to use that term, but that's what people do. Don't let him inbox you. And then y'all start talking and the shaitan creeps in. And then the next thing you're saying, what? We just want to make it halal. Hurry up. And he's really the same guy that you divorced 2 years ago. But you in a rush, you're not letting the Wali do his job, you're not following the proper procedures, so you put yourself back in the jam. Are there any other questions? Yes.
I just want to elaborate on something. You brought the issue about the sisters, brothers moving to the sister's house, right? I totally agree with you about that. But we have issues now, people specifically, like how it's happened to me and it's happened to my other brothers. Sisters don't want to move.
Yeah.
So what we provide brothers, they don't want to give up their house.
That's a good question.
They want to give up their spot. Say, "I'll put here."
So we're gonna make this the last question, right? The brother said, I know you mentioned that brothers shouldn't move into the sister's house, right? Anybody disagree with that first? Any brother disagree with that? The woman's house, yes. Anybody disagree with that? I mean, if you disagree, you can disagree. Right? You disagree. So you think brothers should move in the houses of women?
I wouldn't say should, but sometimes they have to.
But I'm talking about have to. I said should.
Well, I agree.
If you're moving into it, listen, let me be honest. Man. If you're moving in, how are you ready to get married if you're moving into our house?
When they got a crib, though, again, if woman doesn't want to, you said.
Huh? Yeah, as a man. So in general, if you are getting married, the rule of thumb is you must provide food, clothing, and shelter. That's the rule of thumb. Yeah, the job of a woman is not to provide shelter for her. The roles are not reversed. The woman should not provide you with food, clothing, and shelter. And she shouldn't have to pay you dowry either. Right? I'm just saying. You as a man, that is your responsibility. Right? Now, if she says, I got it, I don't need you for that, it's okay, etc., etc., you can go down that road if you want to, but it's going to backfire. You're going to start driving, and the next thing, oh, we forgot to pay X, Y, Z. Well, I thought we agreed. No, I changed my mind. So what happens when she changes her mind? Then you gotta provide food, clothing, and shelter. Yes. Even if you move into a sister's house and you're paying the bills, it's still her house. So he says, so how do you recommend moving forward with that? What if she's not comfortable? She has her spot. You're not comfortable giving up your spot, and maybe you also get a third spot. Maybe you should get a third spot. All right, well, we're gonna have this is our spot, and then we can figure it out from there. But she don't all the way trust you like that right now, right?
Pay all the bills in her house. You gonna pay all the bills in his house.
Right, but you gotta understand now too. So this is specific to the women in our community, right? The women in our community are not like women in other communities, right? A lot of them have their own jobs, take care of themselves, etc. What you're asking as a man, you're saying, no, give up your spot, come move with me. She's like, oh, I've been married like 2 times already because I'm not playing that game, right? So now what do you recommend? She's like, I believe you and all that, but I'm not giving my spot up. So understanding that situation is real. Understanding that situation, so she may say, okay, well, how about y'all come together with a solution to get a 3rd spot? But the brother might say, I don't got the money to do all that. So now comes some compromise now, right? Because if she's not giving up her spot, you're not giving up your spot, but you want to get married, y'all got to come up with some type of compromise that's going to be effective and efficient for both people. And then work it out that way. That makes sense. What doesn't make sense for a man to say, you know, I'm going to give up my stuff and go move in with you. What also doesn't make sense for women in our environment, this doesn't count for women from in different communities. In our community, it may not make sense for a woman to give up her stuff and move in with me. It's just the reality of our situation. So if you're listening to this, you're from a whole different environment, oh, that doesn't make sense, brother. If you lived here, you wouldn't say that, right? This is why when it comes to fiqh, you have to understand the people of where you're at, right? Here in this environment, it may not make sense for a woman to give up her property to come move in with a man, and it may not make sense for a man to do the same thing, so you have to compromise. And Allah Ta'ala.
I gotta read this. Sisters, y'all gotta, I hope, inshallah, that y'all take this information and y'all use it. Assalamu alaikum. If you married years ago over the phone with a wali of the husband's choosing, the man chose a wali for her, should you be doing that, sisters? All right. Alhamdulillah, I know that now. Like, it says here, the mahar was him learning 3 surahs. He never learned them. Is the marriage valid?
Yeah.
Meantime, he married other women since. It's a shame, man. John is sad. The mahar is the man to learn 3 surahs? It ain't even funny, man. It's sad.
So the dowry of the mahar is for the sister, not for the brother. That's what I'm saying. We live in a society where women give the men mahar. There's another thing, before we end this. There's this thing where brother mentioned to me yesterday, says, brothers believe that they are the one who sets the limit of the mahar. I tell you what I'm going to give you for your dowry. Right? That's what people know here, correct? The man stipulates what the woman gets for her dowry. She says, I want $1,000. No, you only get 300. So the reality of it is, the dowry is her choice. She gets what she wants, and if you can agree to that, then you pay it. If you can't agree to that, then you maybe have to move on, or maybe she's willing to compromise that. But it's not for the man to make her feel, no, that's too much, I ain't paying that. You need to lower that a couple $100. No, it's her right. This is what she wants, then that's what she deserves, and it's up to her to accept that or not. Okay? If a man offers something and she's cool with that, she's okay with that, then that's fine. But if she's not okay with that, then she can say, no, I want this, or I want that. Is that clear? Right. Well, I just said it. Alhamdulillah. All right, so we're gonna conclude with that, inshallah. Any last questions real quick before we close out? What you say?
Not real quick.
Nothing real quick.
Nothing real
You
quick.
want to continue after the salat?
Salat.
Tayyib. You want to continue after the salat? Tayyib. Let's go after the salat. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
You can do that?
I don't know.